let's jump right into it. We are still 10 quarters into this secular bear market or whatever you call it in biotech. And it seems like as I go sector by sector, therapeutics seems to be, one of the shining lights in the sector. What's going on with therapeutics? Why is it seeming to be a little bit better positioned than the others?
Yeah, Jonathan, I would say that, the therapeutic companies that are able to deliver differentiated data are performing really well. The companies that are not are still in the penalty box. So, I think that there's an opportunity for, pretty substantial alpha creation for a company that can deliver first in class or potentially best in class data. And, we've seen a few of those recently, fortunately, even with a couple companies that are holdings in the portfolio. But you have to be wary though, right? We're not seeing a sea that's raising all boats, Jonathan. The companies that, maybe their timelines are extended or they need to raise more capital or they're a long way away from that data event, those companies are still under pressure.
Yeah. And well, we're coming out of earnings season and it looks like there's more cash on the balance sheets of some of these enterprises. Is there a lot of money in motion? Is a lot of sit and wait? What's going on with the cash in general? It just seems it's there, but there hasn't been a ton of M&A lately necessarily like we saw earlier in the year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the year-to-date M&A is up, but to your point, we haven't seen too many M&A headlines in the past few weeks. We do expect to see more between now and the end of the year. The large operating businesses, as you pointed out, performed really well in the second quarter. We're seeing very healthy cash balances, cash generation, and if you factor in ability to pull down leverage, there's a few $100 billion of M&A capacity that is ready to go today on these larger cap company balance sheets. So, we're going to see some more.
Good. Well, we'll be patient for the time being, but let's talk into someone we don't need to be patient for. eUrogen. Holy cow, we're up triple digits year to date. Give us a little spotlight on that. I was in the Wall Street Journal, a lot of commentary about this stock. Why did it take such a big hit to the good side, and what do we expect going forward?
Absolutely. No, we were fortunate to have this as one of our holdings. It's a company that has an approved commercial product, and was developing a second product for a larger patient population, this non-muscle invasive bladder cancer population, and the standard of care for these patients is a TURBT surgical intervention, and eUrogen announced that 2 different clinical trials that showed very favorable data compared to standard of care and very high response rates, for their therapy as a standalone. And the data, in the view of, some thought leaders, could be practice changing and certainly could be appropriate for, a broader, set of patients and, could be a great solution. So, it's a Smid-Cap stock that analysts are now projecting, these publishing analysts are projecting the market opportunity, with this new data could be over $1 billion. And, even with the 100% move, as you pointed out, the stock's still trading at, $600-700 million market cap. So, if you believe the market opportunity, boy, there could be substantial upside from here.
Yeah, and it's off its high in 2018. Was it May 2018 was the high watermark, and we're still way down from those valuations. Well, you mentioned Smid. It's hard to find other good success stories in Smid right now. There's a lot of funds, a lot of entities down 50-some%. Is that cost of capital? Is it the fear of binary outcomes, money on the sidelines? What are your thoughts in general about that side of the market?
Yeah, I think, eUrogen, was one of the, success stories, right? So the companies that either, don't deliver on differentiated data or, they have to raise more capital or, otherwise they're impaired. We're seeing some pretty big drawdowns and we're seeing a lot of these companies actually go out of business, right? So some of them are, we're seeing Chapter 11, we're seeing, combinations of companies, mergers and reprioritizations of pipeline. You're seeing a lot of reductions in force. And I think we're going to see more of this because, don't forget, there was a record number of companies that became newly public in the biotech space since the pandemic lockdown. Hundreds of companies, either through front door IPOs or through SPACs or reverse mergers or other means, and the quality wasn't consistent. And so we're going to see a lot of these, lower quality companies with undifferentiated programs. They're going to disappear. They're going to wipe out a lot of equity value in the process. But I wouldn't want that to distract folks from the gems that are in there. So, the key here is that Jonathan, we're not going to see a sea that raises all boats. Every mid-cap company isn't going to be up 50, 60, 70% in the next 12 months. It's not going to happen. But there's going to be a handful of companies that will be, right? And obviously, the work to do is to, try to sift through, this large group of companies, and based on their scientific and medical fundamentals, pick out the winners.
Yeah, pick the winners, and they better be differentiated, right? There's got to be something unique there. And do you think with these bankruptcies and going out of business, is the sector's ability to fundraise skewed? Is it people being more cautious, or are you still seeing flows into primary, secondary, that sort of thing?
So I'd say it's bifurcated, Jonathan. So, for companies that, are perceived to have the strongest programs, there's essentially an infinite amount of capital for these companies, right? So, you deliver on the differentiated data set, you can do a financing transaction and raise substantial capital that can get you to the next leg of the journey. That's a subset though, right? So, for this broader tail of companies, it's not easy. And the reason you're seeing, a lot of these, wind downs, et cetera, is because capital is not as available as it was. And so, I think that you're going to see this pressure continue, for some period of time. It reminds me of the period of time when we came out of the financial crisis. And there was a period where very few IPOs were done. There was quite a long drought. And for companies to do follow-on transactions, they were pressured, and they were, doing, there were onerous terms, a lot of warrant coverage, big discounts, a lot of dilution. That's kind of where we are now. And more companies are unfortunately gonna feel some pain on the dilution side that are out of position in terms of their development programs.
Gotcha. Well, we're back to where we started. Pick good winners and avoid the losers, and that's no easy business. Okay, I have to ask you one question. This is the Dr. Charest question. Maybe it's too personal, but you got to answer it. These obesity drugs, they are all over the news. I have my doubts. What is Dr. Charest's take on some of these drugs?
Well, look, I mean, you can't argue with the data, and that is, we've seen, bariatric surgery like weight loss results, in these medications. Some of them are approved, some of them that are still in development. There's some injectable, long-acting injectables. There's some of these orals that are coming along. There's a bunch of these programs. But generally speaking, GLP-1 plus these other mechanisms, GIPR and glucagon, and there's this triple G. All these related mechanisms are showing phenomenal pharmacologic based weight loss. And this most recent data that came out from Novo, with the outcomes trial, not only showed that patients are losing weight, but that's translating to improved cardiovascular outcomes, which is really what you care about, right? What is the long-term morbidity and mortality? And I think that the enthusiasm for the space is in overdrive because of the association with improved outcomes, and that matters a lot. So look, my view is that these drugs over time will be the most widely used medicines ever created. The demand is certainly off the chart. In a lot of cases now, they're supply limited, right? And supply, not necessarily by drug substance, but the number of glass vials and fill finish and everything else, right? So this is a supply limited market. There's interesting questions on how accessible payers are going to make these drugs, right? Because there's some restrictions now. Not anyone can just easily go get it, right? I mean, everyone in Hollywood and their agent might be able to get these drugs, but folks out in kind folks in Nebraska may not have as easy access, right?
$6,000 a year, right? It's expensive,
or more, depending upon the channel and your negotiated price and everything else. So, look, I think these are going to be the best-selling medicines, the most widely used medicines. They clearly have a major impact. And that said, okay, so let's talk about the investment opportunity, right? So the best known stocks that are leaders in this space are very expensive right now. I mean, obviously, this is well-known news. It's well circulated. They're trading at valuation multiples that really haven't been seen at this market cap scale, for a pharma company. I'm talking about Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, and so. I think the way I look at the investment opportunity is I think you're pretty late to the party for those companies, and they're pretty fully valued. But there's second generation solutions. There's other drugs coming through that aren't being developed by the leaders that another strategic party might find interesting. If they want to enter this space, and
Sure.
it reminds me a little bit of the PD-1 space in oncology, right? So this is a space that it's the world's mostly used oncology drug in Keytruda,
Mhm.
right? It's approved
Yeah.
for 40 or 50 indications, and every big pharma company has a PD-1, more or less, right? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I
We
think
get
this
it.
might be similar, right? If you're in a strategic decision-making role at any big pharma company, you have to seriously consider what's your strategy to address this market, and I think they're all going to be looking for assets.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for indulging me. That was fun. There's gonna be a lot more of that coming in the years to come, I feel. But hey, Mark, this is another great conversation. Really appreciate it. Check out the funds. We'll be back for more next month. Appreciate your time. Have a beautiful day. Get out there and hit the ball or ride the waves, whatever you're doing today.
Look forward to that. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a good one.
See ya. Have a great one. See ya.